First story. I married my daughter's bully's father, said my marriage isn't about her, and told her to move on after the bully ruined my daughter's dress at the wedding, and then took away my daughter's college fund to send her bully on a vacation. It had been 1 year, and I regretted every single thing I did for my new husband and his daughter. My daughter abandoned me. I 49F am getting married to my fiancé, Tyler 52M, this spring. I'm happy. Or at least, I should be. But my daughter 20F is acting like I'm betraying her, and I honestly don't know what I'm supposed to do anymore. I love her. She's my kid. But I also want to have a life. I don't think that makes me awful, but the way she talks to me lately, I feel like I should be wearing a scarlet letter. To give context, I raised her mostly on my own. Her father was in and out of the picture, and when he was around, he caused more harm than help. I worked full-time as a nurse and still tried to make every school play, every birthday cake, and every, "Mom, can you help me with this?" moment. I wasn't perfect, but I gave it my all. She was my whole world for a long time. I met Tyler when she was 13. He had a daughter, Riley, who was 14. From the very beginning, Riley and my daughter didn't get along. And to be fair, Riley could be mean. That's not something I'm denying. She was mouthy and passive-aggressive, the kind of girl who knew how to smile at adults and cut you with her words when no one was looking. She was used to getting her way. Her grandmother babied her. Her dad, Tyler, was soft on her, and her mom wasn't in the picture much. My daughter felt pushed aside. She told me Riley was cruel, and honestly, I saw some of it. I tried to step in, but when it's not your kid, there's only so much you can do. I told Tyler more than once that Riley needed consequences. He would sit her down and talk, but that was the extent of it. It wasn't enough. The last straw was something I found out months after it happened. Riley had apparently told a boy my daughter liked that she wrote erotic fan fiction about him. Which wasn't true, but of course, once that kind of rumor is out there in middle school, it sticks. My daughter was devastated. I didn't even know it happened until she finally broke down during an argument and told me. I confronted Tyler, he confronted Riley, and again just talking. No apology. Nothing changed. So I left him. It hurt like hell. I loved him. But I couldn't keep my daughter in a house where she felt unsafe and humiliated. I figured I had time to find love again later. My daughter needed me, so I moved us into a small rental, picked up extra shifts, and tried to patch things up. For the record, she seemed happier once we moved. But she never really let go of the bitterness. And honestly, I don't blame her. I know she felt like I picked Tyler over her in the beginning. Maybe I did. Maybe I was so desperate to have a real partner, a stable home, that I ignored warning signs about Riley. I've apologized for that. More than once. She doesn't bring it up directly anymore, but I know it still lives under her skin. What she doesn't seem to understand is that I never stopped loving Tyler. Even after I left, we stayed in touch here and there. A text every few months. A card on my birthday. A call on his. There was always something unfinished between us. And when she turned 18 and started living more independently, we reconnected. We took it slow. We had long talks. He apologized for not doing more back then. He admitted he didn't know how to parent Riley, and that he was afraid of driving her away. He knows he messed up. He's changed. Or maybe we both have. Riley's grown too. She lives across town. She has her own job, her own place. We barely interact now, which honestly helps everyone. Tyler and I have our own rhythm, and it works. When I told my daughter we were back together, she was quiet, cold, but not explosive. I asked if she wanted to talk about it. She said no. She said I was an adult, and I could do what I wanted. But the way she said it felt like a dare, like I was being warned. Now that the wedding's coming up, all of that quiet coldness is starting to turn into actual problems. She's not excited. She drags her feet through every conversation about it. I wanted her to be my maid of honor, but she wouldn't even give me a straight answer when I asked. I tried to make it fun. I sent her pictures of dresses. I asked her to come with me to tastings. Half the time she just ignores my messages or gives me one-word replies. The other half, she acts like I'm burdening her by involving her at all. It all came to a head last week when we went dress shopping. I brought a few friends and asked her to come. I was hoping it would feel like old times. She used to love doing makeup with me, watching Say Yes to the Dress, stuff like that. But she showed up late, barely spoke, and didn't compliment a single gown. One of my friends pulled me aside and asked if everything was okay between us, because the tension was so obvious. When we got back in the car, I asked her if she was upset. She said no. I asked again, and she finally said, "Look, I don't want to fight. You can do whatever you want. I'm just not happy for you." Then she added, "I think you're being selfish. You're supposed to be my mom." And I don't know how you can love a man like that. When she said that, something in me just dropped. Not anger exactly. More like exhaustion settling into my bones. I had driven us home in silence because I didn't trust myself to say anything useful in that moment. I kept replaying it in my head. You're being selfish. How can you love a man like that? Like Tyler was some kind of stain on my character instead of a person I had shared years of my life with. When we got home, I tried again. I told her I wasn't asking her to throw confetti or pretend the past didn't happen. I said I only wanted her to accept that I'm allowed to want happiness too. She responded by listing everything Riley ever did to her. Not just the fanfiction lie, but other things I hadn't even known about: snide comments at school, classmates laughing, a teacher pulling her aside because concerns had been raised. Some of it made my stomach turn. Some of it, I honestly didn't know how to respond to, because it was the first time I was hearing it 7 years later. I asked her why she never told me. She said she did, just not clearly enough. That part hurt, because I remember those years as constant crisis management. I was working overtime, trying to afford a house we could all live in, trying to keep the peace. I didn't dismiss her pain, but I also wasn't omniscient. I told her that. She rolled her eyes and said that was convenient. Then she hit me with, "You already chose him once. You'll do it again." That's when I started crying. Not sobbing, just tears I couldn't stop. One of my friends was still in the kitchen, and I could feel the room shift. My daughter just stood there like she was daring me to prove her point. I told her I didn't leave Tyler lightly back then. I told her it broke my heart. I told her that I had spent years alone because I felt like any happiness I reached for would hurt her somehow. I told her I wasn't doing this to her. She told me it didn't feel that way. My friends didn't jump in, but the silence was loud. Later, 2 of them pulled me aside and asked what was going on. I told them the short version. They were sympathetic to her pain, but they also looked at me like they didn't know what else I was supposed to do. One of them said quietly, "You didn't stop being a person when she turned 13. That night Tyler noticed something was wrong the minute I walked in. I explained what happened. He listened, didn't interrupt, and didn't get defensive. When I finished, he said he understood why she hated this, but he couldn't fix what had already happened. He said Riley had grown up, messed up, and moved on. He said he wished he had done more back then and lived with that regret daily. He also said he wasn't going to spend the rest of his life apologizing for loving me." After that, things got tense fast. Tyler stopped going out of his way around my daughter. He wasn't rude, just distant. He stopped inviting her to dinners. He stopped trying to engage. I didn't ask him to do that, but I understood why he did. Riley, on the other hand, decided to weigh in one afternoon when my daughter came by to pick something up and ran into her unexpectedly. According to my daughter, Riley said she didn't even like me and had never wanted to live with us. But now that we're adults, it's ridiculous to expect anyone's parent to build their entire life around them. I don't love that Riley said it, but I can't pretend the sentiment was entirely wrong. Since then, my daughter has been colder. She no longer pretends this is just about the wedding. She questions everything. Why Tyler gets a say in where I live. Why I defend him when she talks about the past. Why I don't insist on bigger apologies, public reckonings, or gestures that would somehow rewrite history. What she wants, I think, is for me to admit that I made the worst decision of my life, and that being with him again is proof I didn't learn anything. But here's the thing I can barely say out loud without feeling guilty. I don't think I made the wrong choice leaving him back then. And I don't think I'm making the wrong choice now by going back. Both can be true. I loved my daughter enough to walk away when she needed me to. I love myself enough now to stop living in suspension. I don't want to push her out of my life. I still want her at the wedding. I still want her to call me when something good or bad happens. I want us to have Sunday breakfasts and dumb texts and holidays that aren't miserable. But I can't keep living under the implication that if I don't center her pain above everything else, I've failed as a mother. She's 20. She has her own place, her own plans, her own future. I don't interfere in her relationships. I don't demand approval for who she dates or how she lives. I expect the same courtesy. I'm not asking for enthusiasm. I'm asking for basic respect and some acceptance that my life doesn't end where her comfort begins. At the same time, the look on her face that day still haunts me. I know she didn't invent the hurt she carries. I know some wounds just stay tender. I don't want to lose her. I just don't know how to keep her close without shrinking myself down to nothing. So I'm here asking strangers because I don't trust my own judgment anymore. Am I the arsehole for expecting my adult daughter to accept my marriage and stop treating it like a personal betrayal? Comments. Comment 1. There's a certain grief that comes with realizing your child doesn't see you as a full person. Mine are in their 30s now. And I remember this phase where everything I did was seen through the lens of how it affected them, not what I might have needed or felt. It's hard not to take it personally when they decide your happiness is inconvenient. From where I sit, you already made the sacrifice once. You uprooted your life, walked away from a relationship, and bore the weight alone. That wasn't a small thing. What your daughter wants now is some kind of redemption arc, but life rarely gives us that. Maybe Tyler failed her in the past, but what's she doing with that anger? Using it as a reason to cut you down every time you reach for joy. Her pain matters, yes, but so does your peace. Keep trying with her if you have the energy, but protect yourself. Let her know the door's open without letting her light the whole house on fire every time she walks in. There's nothing wrong with wanting love again. There is something wrong with asking someone to feel guilty for it forever. Comment 2. Jesus, your kid is trying to act like she's in some Lifetime movie where you've chosen your evil stepfamily over her. Riley was a brat. Got it. Teen girls can be absolute demons to each other. But it's been years, and they're both grown. Nobody's asking her to braid Riley's hair at the bridal shower. You just want her to be civil, maybe pick out a damn table runner. She's not 14 anymore, crying in her bedroom she's 20 and weaponizing old wounds to make everything about her. I get that it hurt back then, but she's acting like you're marrying the guy who bullied her, not the guy who failed to stop someone else. If she doesn't want to come to the wedding, fine. She doesn't need to make it an emotional hostage situation. Her whole vibe screams, if I'm not happy, nobody should be. Honestly, she's too old for this high-drama martyr crap. Let her sulk. Go live your life. Comment 3. My mom married a guy I couldn't stand, and I spent years acting like it was some betrayal of the mother-daughter bond. Looking back, I was pissed about stuff that went way deeper than the stepdad. It was puberty, insecurity, mental health stuff. The evil stepfamily thing was just a convenient banner to rally under. What your daughter's doing sounds like that, funneling all the pain and embarrassment of being a teen into a single narrative. You picked him, you let her hurt me, and I never forgave you for it. She wants to freeze you in the guilt of that moment, so she doesn't have to do the harder thing, grow past it. Riley may have been awful, Tyler might have been passive, and you might have missed some signs, but you did change the situation. You did leave. Most wouldn't have. At some point, your daughter's going to have to realize she's not 13 anymore. Nobody expects her to host game night with Riley, but this Cold War routine, exhausting. Let her be mad if she wants. Doesn't mean you have to live in limbo forever waiting for her blessing. Comment 4. Tyler dropped the ball hard, and I think your daughter's deeper anger is at him, not even Riley. She probably internalized that no one really stood up for her, not even you, even though you did leave eventually. But that delay, that gap between when things were bad and when you took action, that window can feel huge to a teenager who's being socially humiliated. From her view, Tyler let Riley treat her like trash, and you stayed with him anyway. And now you're marrying him. So in her mind, it's like none of it mattered. That pain's legitimate, even if her way of expressing it is laced with bitterness. She's wrong to expect your life to pause indefinitely. But if you want a relationship with her long-term, someone Tyler ideally needs to actually name what happened, acknowledge it plainly, and not just chalk it up to Riley being a teenager. That minimizes the damage. If he can't own his part loudly, she won't believe a word he says now. Update. A lot has happened since my original post. And even though the comments were split, I appreciate the perspectives. I went ahead with the wedding. I told my daughter clearly, this was happening. I wasn't asking her to be thrilled. I wasn't expecting some fairy tale reunion with Riley. I just wanted her to come, be civil, and let me have one good day. I made it clear she could either keep dragging this out or try to find some way forward. But I was done apologizing for being in love with someone she still doesn't like. That part was awkward but fine. She said she'd come to the wedding, but only to avoid a bigger mess. I took it. The bigger issue was money. Tyler had promised from day one he'd split the wedding costs with me. We didn't go crazy, but I still had a decent guest list, venue deposit, photographer, catering, and dress, and it added up fast. He told me he'd get his half by liquidating an old savings bond that his mother gave him years ago. 2 weeks before the final vendor payments were due, he admitted that the bond money was never coming. Around that same time, Riley had asked if she and her friends could take a girls' trip after our wedding. He agreed and used the money that was meant to pay for our wedding to fund it. He didn't tell me this until it was gone. His logic was, we had some tension with the girls growing up. Maybe this helps smooth things over. I couldn't believe it. Riley doesn't even like me. She said so to my face. Now I was supposed to be grateful she'd be tanning in Miami while I figured out how to pay for the food at my own damn wedding. I was already on the hook with vendors. Canceling would have cost me more than finishing it. So I made the choice to pull the difference from the education fund I'd set up years ago for my daughter. It was originally for college or whatever career program she wanted. She's been in and out of community college, part-time, with no degree yet. The money was just sitting there. I told myself, she doesn't want to be involved in the wedding. She thinks I'm selfish, and she's not enthusiastic. Well, then this is my day, and I'll do what I need to do. I didn't tell her until after the wedding. I know. That's the part Reddit's going to hate the most. But I knew if I told her before, she'd either refuse to come or blow it up in a way I couldn't manage. She found out a week later. She came over, asked if the fund had been touched. Apparently her bank statement showed a transfer, and I told her the truth. I said it was temporary, and that I planned to rebuild it. She asked me why I didn't use Riley's money or Tyler's credit. I said Tyler is paying just indirectly. That didn't go over well. Then came the dress incident. She was supposed to wear a navy gown we picked together months ago. The day of the wedding, I was already at the venue when I got a text from her saying, "Thanks for the sabotage." I had no clue what she was talking about. She still showed up in a backup dress. She looked great, even if she barely smiled in the photos. After the reception, she left early and wouldn't answer my texts. A cousin told me Riley had tried on the dress the night before they were all staying at my place and got bright red lipstick smeared across the fabric while taking selfies. She didn't fess up, just hung it back up and left it like that. I confronted Riley the next day. She said she was drunk and didn't think it would stain. She said she meant to clean it and forgot. She laughed while explaining this. I told her it wasn't funny. She said, "Your daughter hates me anyway. What difference does it make?" I let it drop because honestly, at that point I was tired. My daughter never brought it up directly, but I know she knows. She barely looked at Riley the entire night. Despite all of this, I still want things to get better. I don't want my marriage to cost me my daughter. So I invited her to dinner last week and asked her to host just her, me, Tyler, and Riley. I told her we'd talk like adults, put things on the table, and move forward. She hesitated, but eventually agreed. She made spaghetti and salad, set the table, lit candles, which surprised me. I thought maybe this was progress. For the first 15 minutes, things were quiet. Tyler complimented her cooking. Riley was scrolling her phone. I tried to open with something neutral. "I really appreciate you doing this. I know things haven't been easy, and I just want us to try and be in the same room without tension." My daughter said, "Then maybe don't fund a vacation for the girl who lied to half my school." That set the tone. Riley fired back immediately, something about how, at least she has a life, and how high school wasn't that deep. Tyler told her to cool it, which only made it worse. She said, "You didn't stand up for me then. Don't pretend you're parenting now." My daughter turned to me and asked, "Did you even try to discipline her back then?" I said yes. She said I didn't do enough. I said I made a mistake, but I also made sacrifices. She asked if the money I took from her fund was another one of my noble sacrifices. I told her it was survival. That weddings cost money, and I wasn't going to cancel because Tyler got soft about saying no to Riley. She stood up and said she didn't want to talk anymore. That dinner wasn't about healing. It was about justifying what I already did. She said next time I want to talk like adults, I should stop treating her like an expense I can borrow against. She left. I haven't heard from her in days. Tyler thinks I should give it more time. Riley says I'll never win if I keep chasing someone who hates our family. And maybe that's true. But I don't hate my daughter. I never have. I'm just tired of paying for the same chapter over and over again. So I'm here again. I got my wedding, and I got the man I love. But it cost me more than I thought. Maybe it'll get better. Maybe it won't. But I'm still asking, did I really do something unforgivable? Or am I just the only one willing to move on? Comments. Comment 1. You sound more annoyed by your daughter's existence than anything else. Like she's just this emotional inconvenience you can't cash out of. You keep justifying garbage decisions with, "It was sitting there," or "He meant to pay," or "I was already on the hook." No. You covered for Tyler because he couldn't say no to his grown daughter. And then you couldn't say no to covering for him, so you took from your own kid. That's what happened. Then Riley trashes your daughter's dress, and you want to talk about who made sacrifices. Riley got a vacation and a pass. Your daughter got a lipstick-stained dress, and a dinner where you basically told her to get over it. I don't think you even see her anymore. She's just in the way of your peace. The part that kills me is that she still showed up. She still cooked you dinner. Even after you pulled her fund. Even after Riley laughed in her face. And you took that as her being ready to move on. She's not the one who needs to grow up. You wanted her to play happy family while watching you hand her place to someone else. Effing brutal. Comment 2. You keep talking like you made sacrifices. But what you did was make a transactional decision over and over again, where your daughter always ends up footing the bill, literally and emotionally. First, it was her mental health at 13. Then her trust in you when you got back with Tyler. And now it's her future fund. You keep acting like those were unavoidable decisions when they were just convenient ones. Riley trashed her dress, didn't apologize, laughed about it. And your only reaction was, I was tired. You aren't tired. You're indifferent to how deep this goes for your daughter. And asking her to host a dinner where she has to sit across from the person who humiliated her again, while Tyler just shrugs and Riley scrolls her phone. That's not peacemaking. That's a power move dressed up as maturity. You wanted a clean slate without cleaning up any of the mess. She didn't ruin your wedding. You chipped away at the relationship for years. And now you're shocked there's barely anything left. You didn't lose your daughter at the altar. You lost her every time you chose to look away when someone else hurt her. Comment 3. Here's how it reads from the outside. Tyler failed to pull his weight financially. You covered for him using money meant for your daughter. Then Riley destroyed your daughter's dress, the only tangible role she had in this wedding, and laughed it off. You invited everyone to a dinner under the pretense of maturity. But instead of mediating, you watched another pile-on happen and called it progress. The pattern's consistent. Every time there's a conflict, you act late, say it was hard on you too, and expect forgiveness without fixing anything. There's never a consequence for anyone else's behavior, only accommodations. And you expect your daughter to stay present for it all because, what? Family. She gave you more than most people would have. She showed up. She cooked dinner. She tried. But she's not getting anything back. Not an apology. Not a refund. Not even basic decency. Everyone else in this story gets something. Tyler gets you. Riley gets her vacation. You get your wedding. All she gets is asked to be adult about being hurt. If she walks away for good after this, I'd call it overdue. Update. It's been a year since the wedding. I haven't spoken to my daughter since the night she hosted that dinner, when she looked me in the face and said she was done trying. I didn't believe her. I thought she'd cool off. I thought I'd get a text, a sarcastic birthday card, anything. Instead, nothing. Just silence. I was angry at first. So angry I couldn't see straight. She turned everyone against me, made it sound like I robbed her blind, humiliated her, and erased her from my life. I told myself she was being dramatic, that she was punishing me for not staying stuck in the past. So I did something petty. I boxed up her room and put everything in storage. I didn't warn her. I didn't ask. I just made space for Riley. Cleared the closet and took down the photo strips, the posters, and even the books I bought her when she was little. I told myself if she wanted to be out of my life, she didn't get to keep pieces of it lying around. Riley moved in 3 weeks later when her lease ended. I told people it was practical. But really, it was punishment. I wanted my daughter to feel what it was like to be replaced. It got worse. On her birthday, I made a last-ditch attempt to fix things. I asked Riley to bake a cake with me. We picked out old photos and tried to recreate one of her childhood birthdays. Same cake, same tablecloth, same type of candles. I sent her a video message. We were standing in the kitchen singing, holding the cake. Riley made a dumb joke halfway through, and we both laughed. I hit send. She never opened it. Later that night, I emailed her. I told her she was being cruel, that I'd tried to bring her in, and she refused. I said maybe she needed professional help. Maybe she couldn't forgive because she couldn't let go. I regret that email more than anything I've done. The silence continued. Riley started to unravel. She always had this sharp streak, but once she moved in, it turned nasty. She made passive digs constantly about my clothes, my age, my old lady tech habits. She rolled her eyes when I forgot to buy oat milk. She called me fragile when I asked her not to blast music late at night. Tyler just chuckled, like she was quirky. I asked him to talk to her. He said, "She's just expressive. You're taking it too personally." Then it happened. We were at a family gathering. My nephew, 16, quiet, shy, accidentally spilled a drink near her shoes. Riley lit him up. Called him an idiot, a liability, said maybe he'd grow a brain if his mom hadn't homeschooled him. I pulled her aside and told her she was out of line. She smirked and said, "So what, now you care when kids get bullied?" I couldn't sleep that night. Everything I'd ignored came back. The dress. The rumors. The fake apologies. My daughter crying in her room when I was just trying to make it work. The first time she asked me to choose, and I didn't. The second time I did, and it was too late. I started noticing more. Tyler is leaving earlier. Coming home later. Not kissing me goodbye. Not asking how my day was. Always tired. Always busy. Then I had a minor health scare, nothing serious, Just a scare. I ended up in the overnight. Called Tyler. He said he couldn't leave work. Riley was out with friends, and I should keep him posted. I sat in a cold hospital bed by myself, staring at the ceiling, thinking my daughter would have come. I tried to reach out. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say much. Just, I miss you. I want to talk. No response. I tried rebuilding the fund. Even took on extra shifts. But with Tyler barely contributing to the household, I couldn't get close. I realized then that I'd lit a bridge on fire to host a party nobody stayed at. Months later, I finally looked at our wedding photos again. I'd been avoiding them. But I clicked through. My daughter is in 6 photos total. In all of them, her arms are stiff, her face unreadable. In the one where Riley's holding the cake, my daughter is in the background mid-step, blurry, walking away. I cried in my kitchen for almost an hour. Tyler and I barely talk now. Riley moved out after a fight. She called me a bitter old woman and said I sabotaged her energy. No apology. No contact since. Tyler said I drove her away. I said maybe she learned from the best. Last week, I filed for separation. It wasn't one thing. It was everything. The silence, the disappointment, the coldness in a house that used to feel like a second chance. I realized I had sacrificed my daughter, my peace, and my principles, and for what? A man who never really showed up. A stepdaughter who saw me as furniture. I kept thinking my daughter would come around. That she'd miss me, even a little. But maybe she was smarter than I gave her credit for. Maybe she saw how small I was willing to make her just to keep something that never deserved her in the first place. I've done awful things. I can't rewrite them. I can't go back and unbox her room or unsteal her future. I can't undo how I treated her grief like a problem to fix instead of a wound I caused. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect a response. But I needed to say it somewhere. I ruined the one relationship that ever really mattered. And I have no one to blame but myself. Comments. Comment 1. My mom did this SHT too. Gave my room to someone else like I was a leftover. Then acted surprised when I disappeared. She married a guy who never said one kind thing to me. Then cried when I stopped calling. Reading this hit me harder than I expected. Your daughter didn't just go silent. She was driven out slowly, painfully, and with precision. You cut her off in slices. Her voice, her space, her money, her memories. That birthday stunt. That wasn't reconciliation. That was you using her pain as party decor. And the worst part is you only seem to feel it now that the house is empty and you've got no one left to blame. Your marriage wasn't a love story. It was a cover-up. And Riley. She mirrored everything your daughter was scared of becoming, and you cheered her on. There's no bow on this. You don't get to end it with, I regret it all, and expect peace. If you ever want real healing, start by understanding you weren't just a flawed mom, you were the one she needed to protect herself from. That's the part that still FS me up to this day. Comment 2. So you steamrolled her future to pay for chicken marsala and an open bar, then made a TikTok birthday tribute with a girl who ruined her teenage years, and you're surprised she went no contact. That's not estrangement, that's evacuation. And the storage unit thing? Jesus. You kicked her out in spirit before she even left physically. That wasn't grief. That was revenge. You didn't want reconciliation. You wanted submission. You needed her to smile and pose and make it easy for you to rewrite the past as messy but worth it. Instead, she saw it for what it was, erasure. And let's talk about Riley. The smug jabs, the dress, the fake apologies, and your big response is to play therapist when she finally breaks. Come on. You didn't protect her when she was 14, and when she was 20, you robbed her blind and gave the keys to the same people who humiliated her. And only now, when the mask slips off everyone else, you want comfort from strangers. Save it. If this is the cost of learning what love isn't, she's better off without your version of it. Comment 3. The most brutal part isn't what you did, it's what you never showed up for. Your daughter begged, silently and outright, for you to see her. Every line in your post leads back to the same thing. Someone else did harm, and you turned away. Not always maliciously, but consistently. You were there for logistics, chores, and appearances. But when it came to defending her, actually backing her when it mattered, you went quiet. People think damage comes from big blowouts, but more often it's silence. You didn't protect her from Riley. You didn't push Tyler to show up. And when she finally tried to put up distance, you closed the door all the way and called it her fault. The cake, the storage unit, the therapy comments, none of it's just mistakes. They were messages. You don't matter unless you play along. She heard it loud and clear. And now that everything else has fallen apart, you're asking where she went. Maybe next time don't measure love by who stays, but by who felt safe enough to stay close. Because that's the part that got lost, not her love for you, but her sense that it meant anything. Second story. My girlfriend had a history of being a spicy girl on campus and was getting bullied, so I stepped in to help her. Now I'm getting bullied, so I broke up with my girlfriend. So basically my 21MGF 23F, and I have been together since last March. We go to different universities, but live in the same city. Both of us live off campus outside the city, in the same apartment building, which is where we happened to meet by chance. She was in her last year of undergrad before her 2 years of grad school she is currently in when we met. So, this is a bit embarrassing, but I was a virgin until I met her, and she is the only woman I have ever been with. I am madly in love with her. She was patient, etc., everything. I know she wasn't a virgin when she met me, and I am aware she's had a couple of relationships, but I never bothered asking. She told me that she's been with a few people on her own, volunteered that information. Anyway, a month ago, during winter break, we both worked and stayed on campus. I went to her campus to the lab she works at for the first time to surprise her, because she texted me she got a grant proposal approved, and I got a reservation at a nicer place. I went to pick her up and surprise her. Anyway, we walked by, and a lot of guys approached her, and she was friendly with them, but was rushing interactions, like she wanted to get out of there. Then a group of dudes walked past and giggled at her and me and said hi to her, and she seemed a bit embarrassed. I took her away from there, and we had a nice dinner. But I wanted to know about why those guys embarrassed her. So, full disclosure, I wanted to look into these guys. She has never let me on her campus or meet her friends. I thought she was maybe being bullied, and I kinda relate to that since I was bullied in high school myself and didn't have much friends. My mind did not even go anywhere else. She is a little bit nerdy and geeky, and I love that about her. But those aren't exactly popular as we know. I asked my friends on campus and acquaintances I knew in her school from shared clubs I was in if she was being bullied and explained what happened. But it was not that. To put it lightly, she has had a history. Like a very colorful history. And those guys were members of her school's basketball team who had been with her at the same time, amongst other things. And she is kind of known around her campus for this. I even saw Yik Yak stuff making fun of me for being unaware they used her name. But like called me innocent, unaware, and made fun of me. I brought it up with her right away as soon as I got to know a couple days after our dinner, and she cried and confessed everything. She said she has changed and didn't want me to judge based on that. I said of course I wouldn't and let it go. But things were not the same. It was eating away at me, and there were more GC messages from people in her school, and people I know making fun of me for being a cuck, etc. He wifed up the first girl that gave him attention, etc. I tried my best not to let it get to me. But it did. So we had the talk a week ago and broke up, and she was devastated. I blamed it on being busy at school. My final semester is coming up, and I said I wanted to lock in. She thinks I am lying about Fatiam, and it's because of the situation. She's right. I insisted that was not the case. She was really angry, and then calm, and then cried, and it was a whole thing, and it still is a thing. She still messages me, and I leave her on read and tell her she deserves someone who is able to commit proper time to a relationship. I actually just blocked her earlier today, and it was difficult. So Ada, the way I see it, she can't change her past, so it would be unfair of me to add to her feeling self-conscious about it. But I really can't do it anymore. I haven't even been able to look at her. I feel so self-conscious. Everyone views me as a goddamn joke, and it's not her fault, but I can't do it, man. After this breakup went public on her social media, chatter about me has died down and people don't look at me anymore. I finally feel peace again. I miss her, but I also don't want to be known for this. So Ada, not for breaking up with her, but for lying about it. I thought I was sparing her feelings, but some of my friends told me I should have been honest. Comments. Commenter 1. I don't think this is real, but some of my friends told me I should have been honest. I would say you weren't the arsey hole, except you're apparently okay with telling other people exactly why you broke up, lol. OP. I don't blame you. This SHT had me feeling like a 13 Reason Why character too. I wouldn't believe it either, TBH, if I read this online. As for the other thing, my friends kind of know, but I haven't told them directly. I mean, they were the ones who showed me the Yik Yak thing. I am maintaining that I broke up because I am busy. But some of these dudes lived with me before and kind of know me, and like her, can tell when I am lying. So they tell me, hey, my name, you should tell her the real reason, and I say, yeah, I did. And they obviously don't believe me. I don't want to add to her burden or what people think of her. People are effing arseholes. People don't understand what happened. Her father passed away during that time period, amongst other things. Her family doesn't believe in therapy and forbade her from going to therapy and asked her to read religious books instead. It is 100% not a reflection of who she is now. Imagine being my age and your father died, and you couldn't even get help and just had to read some FR superficial SHT. You would deal with it in other ways. Plus, I truly do think it's mostly on me for not being able to handle being called words online. So that's why I don't think I should tell her the real reason. Commenter 2. So you go from passing by people in the street to guys texting you calling you a Kirk. Well, that sure escalated. Not sure how. But such is the internet. OP should have clarified. On her campus, they've been saying stuff about me. I just was not aware. But when the people on my campus knew about it afterwards, then it became about me. Even the yik yak stuff was from my campus, not hers. I mean to say, me asking people why she was being bullied and asking people from her campus kinda stirred it up on my campus. What was going on over there? I brought it to my campus and did it to myself by being nosy, thinking I could help her. Commenter 2. I guess my question was more, how do all these randos get your number? OP. They didn't get my number. There is an app called Yik Yak, and also general screenshots from other GCS were circulated. None of this stuff was directly sent to me, but rather people I know were sending it to me, so I am aware of what was being said about me. No one said anything to my face, but I felt like everyone was staring at me whenever I was outside. I definitely feel like I had some looks, and people laughed at me, but I am not 100% sure. But the screenshots were enough to make me feel hyper-aware. Commenter 3. I get why you were overwhelmed, but lying wasn't kindness. It just left her carrying shame for a past she can't change, while you quietly chose peace. Lol. OP, I told her, and I mean it. I know she is not that person anymore. Her dad passed away during that time period. I knew of this. And her family doesn't let her go to therapy because they're ultra-religious also knew of this. So she was lost and did stuff to deal with it. Even if it was not in the healthiest manner, because she couldn't have access to the healthy mental help. She is not whatever people want to say about her without understanding. So in this case, wouldn't telling her just pin my inability to deal with people's words on her? I don't know if I am making sense. Update. Sorry for the repost. I had to delete my first update post because I made a lot of typos, and my OCD acted up and didn't let me edit it. Okay, so a lot happened. But to get the good news out of the way, she and I are back together, and I will never ever let what other people say or do get into my head again. When I posted my first post, we had already spent 8-9 days officially broken up, and it sucked coming home to an empty apartment because we live in the same building, and she has my spare key and would always come over whenever. So TBH, I think I was looking for someone to validate that I am not a lesser man for going back to her because these RC holes got into my head. So, basically, thank you to everyone who talked some sense into me, and to those of you that demed me especially. I know her better than anyone, and I did fail her here. I did want to stop her from being bullied, but the second people said stuff about me, I chickened out. I wasn't a good boyfriend for her. So basically, even before my post, I was talking to her friend to check up on her. And after my post, I was still talking to her. She is our mutual friend and tried to be neutral. But a few hours after my unrelated post, she called me and said she thinks I made a mistake. I am her first and longest relationship, and she made me understand just because people said something, or she had been with others, doesn't mean anything. In the grand scheme of things, I win, because I get to build a life with her. So over the last 2 days, it has been mostly me apologizing to her. She was angry at first, and reasonably so, but I never told her people were saying stuff about me. So I told her people were saying stuff about me and showed her the screenshots. And she began to cry and thought we would be better off not together. And, a bit embarrassing to say, I kinda cried too Elmao, and we had a sappy. We will face the world together, and as long as we are together, no one can defeat us moment. Yeah, cringe, but it actually made me feel better. I should have just told her what people were saying, and how it bothered me from the beginning, and clarified it wasn't her history, but what people said. We also had a cheesy/corny/sappy discussion about how we would leave this godforsaken town behind once she's done with grad school and I have a stable job. And F these people except our friends. We don't have to deal with their bullshit any longer. We decided not to count this 2-week breakup as a breakup. Her mom and my parents are ultra-religious conservatives, different religions. But we're both atheist agnostic, and they don't know about us and would never approve of us being together. That is a hurdle we need to cross one day. And we decided this was practice for that. And relatively we handled our first relationship obstacle well. Though there is a lot of space for improvement. Will what people say stop bothering me? Hopefully I'll be desensitized to it over time. We posted a picture back together, and the screenshots from my friends rolled in again. I told them to stop sending them to me at this point. I get it. I am our campus's Will Smith lol. But F it, I have her with me now, and I can talk to her about it at any time. So, we both don't have work or class tomorrow. And she has a deadline she needs to pull an all-nighter for. There is the big winter storm this weekend. I am sure my Americans know what I am talking about. So I went ahead and picked up groceries, hot chocolate, and all the essentials today. My work, classes, and her work and classes also preemptively canceled for Monday and Tuesday too. She's going to come over once she's done with her paper, and we decided we are going to spend the long weekend snowed in at my place. Thank you everyone, commenters and DMers, and a special shout out to our mutual friend, who spoke sense into me and validated me, and stopped me from throwing away my one shot at happiness. I don't mean to be cheesy, but I really can't believe I was about to throw away someone who genuinely cares for me, etc. over this. Even though we were broken up, I got campus interviews 2 weeks from now, and she still bought me a tie and was going to give it to a mutual friend to give it to me. Not only is she my girlfriend, but she really is one of the few people that actually wants me to succeed and cares about me unconditionally. And to think I was about to throw it all away over what a bunch of bitter single people were saying, lol. Thank you. Comments. Commenter. Bro, you have no self-respect. Redditors here have no problem with stuff like cuckoldry or poly relationships. They brainwashed you. You should have respected yourself and realized it was your preference to not be with someone who had a cork carousel. Body count matters. People who sleep with mattresses. People rarely change and remind me 10 years. She'll break up for other reasons. She's statistically the most likely to break up and be bored with you. OP. My friend and his ex were both virgin when they met each other. She cheated on him and was with him because his dad was rich, and he bought her presents. My girl bought me a tie after we had broken up, and she was sure we wouldn't be back together. But she wanted me to have it anyway and do well in my interview. She had no incentive at that point. She could have been bitter since I abandoned her when she could have used my help the most. But she still cared. My biggest takeaway from this experience is it doesn't matter what someone does outside a relationship. It matters what they do in one. And she's done nothing but support me. I would like to see you deal with the death of a parent. Check my original post without access to mental health. I'm sure you would do some stuff you're not proud of too. OP responds to the comments about the app. Yik yak. OP. It's an app on the App Store that you can go and search up and download. It's a yak on a neon green background. You use your verified school email, and you can log in. It's on the App Store on iPhone. Editor's note. Yik Yak was first launched in 2013 before it was shut down in 2017. It was relaunched in 2021 and is only available for iOS only. Commenter 1. Not gonna lie, this was messy, but real life usually is. You clearly spiraled because you care, not because you're malicious. The big takeaway is exactly what you said. Talk to your partner first, always. Outsiders don't live in your relationship. Take this as a lesson, log off for a bit, and focus on building something solid instead of defending it to people who don't matter. Commenter 2. Guys get judged for not having sex. Girls get judged for having a sex. Tale as old as time. Really glad everything worked out for you both. Pay no mind to the vultures at your respective schools. They're still mentally stuck in high school. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.